Adunni walked deeper into the kitchen, eager to see how her favorite food was prepared. She saw the brown liquid from the large pot boiling in a smaller pot with fish and meat. The whole place was dirty and disgusting, with pieces of food scattered around, strange things she had never seen, and flies everywhere. She felt her stomach turn at the sight. In the heart of K2 village, Mama Iyabo was well known by everyone. Her name was often mentioned in conversations, from farmers working in the fields to women selling in the market. She owned the most popular restaurant in the village, where people came from far and near just to eat her food. Many said her cooking was so good that it tasted like it had been blessed by the gods. Once people tasted her meals, they always come back for more. Her shop was simple, a wooden building with a roof made of palm leaves, but it was always full of life. All the foods are cooked in the shops, while the customers sit on wooden benches outside in an open space, laughing and chatting while eating plates of rice, yam, and steaming bowls of soup. The smell of delicious food filled the air, mixing with the sounds of children playing outside. Traders often stopped by for a quick meal in between their busy days. What made Mama Yabo stand out was that she cooked everything herself, from cutting vegetables to stirring large pots of soup. She did it all. This was why her food always tasted so good. Everyone believed her hands had magic. But there was one strange thing about her restaurant. No one was allowed into her kitchen. Even her workers who served the food could only wait at the counter. Mama Yabo would dish out the food herself and hand it to them to give to customers. Some people noticed that thick smoke always came from the back of the restaurant, and Mama Yabo prohibited anyone from going to the back of the restaurant, including the workers. But the people never asked questions. They were too busy enjoying the food. Mama Yabo's cooking was famous, and her restaurant was one of the most important places in the village. Meanwhile, in a village called Aroko, which was not too far from the city, a young girl named Adunni never liked cooking. She is 19 years old with two siblings. Her father is a chief in the village while her mother is a housewife. Her mother had always been frustrated with her lack of interest in cooking. Growing up, Adunni avoided the kitchen as much as she could. While her sisters helped with meal preparation, she always found a way to disappear whenever work needed to be done. Her mother often called her out, accusing her of being lazy and unprepared for the responsibilities of adulthood. Despite the scolding, Adunni never saw cooking as something important. She believed there would always be someone else to do it. Her siblings teased her constantly, saying she would struggle when she left home for the university. But Adunni didn't care. She had just gained admission to a university in the city and was set to leave in 2 days. Her mother bought plenty of food items for her to take along, hoping she would learn to cook while at school. When the day came for her to leave, it was an emotional moment for her family. Her parents were proud but sad to see their child go, and her siblings cried as they hugged her tightly and said their goodbyes. The journey to the university took 8 hours. When Adunni finally arrived, she stayed on campus with strangers who were now her roommates. Adunni took a habit of not cooking with her to school, fully living her best life as a student. As months passed, she visited nearly every restaurant around her campus, enjoying meals without ever worrying about preparing them herself. While her roommates cooked to save money, Adunni relied on food vendors or shared meals made by her new friend and roommate, Lola. Adunni stayed far away from the kitchen, convinced that cooking wasn't a skill she needed. Over time, Adunni and Lola became close friends. One afternoon, Lola and Adunni went to one of their favorite restaurants near the campus. Adunni, as usual, was praising the food, describing it as one of the best meals she had ever eaten. She enjoyed eating out and always took her time appreciating the meals she loved. Lola, however, wasn't as impressed. While Adunni praised the food, Lola simply smiled and shook her head. She knew of a place far better than any restaurant in the city. It was a spot in her hometown, Ketu, that no other place could compare to. Lola told Adunni about the woman in her village who owned a restaurant called Mama Iyabo's Kitchen. She explained that Mama Iyabo's food was better than what they were eating right now, and that anyone who tasted it always wanted to return. Lola added that if Adunni ever visited Ketu, she would take her there to experience the amazing food herself. Adunni listened and was fascinated by Lola's words. Though she loved the restaurants around campus, but the way Lola spoke about Mama Iyabo's food made her want to taste it. She said to herself that she must visit Ketu one day to see what the hype was about. During a school break, Adunni decided to visit Ketu with Lola. Excited about the trip, she invited two friends, Bimpe and Tunde, who had also heard about Mama Iyabo's famous food from Lola and wanted to experience it for themselves. As they approached Mama Iyabo's kitchen, the rich aroma of spices and freshly cooked meals filled the air, making their mouths water before they even stepped inside. Without wasting time, they ordered a variety of dishes, eager to taste everything. Each bite was a delight, and they ate until they were full. Adunni was so impressed by the flavors that she silently promised herself she would return. It was unlike anything she had ever eaten before. From that day on, every time Adunni found herself in Ketu, she made it a point to eat at Mama Iyabo's kitchen. The food became her favorite, and she couldn't get enough of it. During another long school break, she decided to spend 3 days in Ketu with Lola before heading back to her hometown, ensuring she had enough time to enjoy the food she had come to love so much. One quiet night, when the village was covered in darkness, Adunni decided to visit Mama Iyabo's restaurant alone. Lola was busy with her family, but Adunni couldn't resist the craving for Mama Iyabo's food. The restaurant was as lively as always, filled with customers chatting and enjoying their meals. As Adunni sat down to eat, enjoying each bite, Mama Iyabo stepped out of her kitchen to greet one of her wealthier customers. Her warm laughter and confident attitude made her seem like a simple, hardworking woman. Almost through with her meal, Adunni's phone rang. It was her mother calling. The noise in the restaurant was too much, so she stood up to answer the call. Without much thought, she walked toward the back of the shop, searching for a quiet spot, unaware that she was breaking Mama Iyabo's strict rule about the kitchen area. Adunni was completely focused on the conversation with her mother and didn't realize where she had wandered. As she ended the call and looked around, her attention was drawn to a large pot of firewood at the back of the shop. Steam was rising from it, covering the air. At first, Adunni assumed it was just boiling water. Curious, she stepped closer, thinking it might be the secret to Mama Iyabo's delicious meals. What she saw when she peeked into the pot made her freeze in shock. It wasn't boiling water. The pot was filled with a thick brown liquid, bubbling as the heat was much. Floating inside was a lot of air. Her stomach rumbled at the sight, and fear gripped her. Adunni's body felt weak. Her hands were trembling as she moved away from the pot, and her heart was beating fast. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. Adunni walked deeper into the kitchen, eager to see how her favorite food was prepared. She saw the brown liquid from the large pot boiling in a smaller pot with fish and meat. The whole place was dirty and disgusting, with pieces of food scattered around, strange things she had never seen, and flies everywhere. She felt her stomach turn at the sight. Adunni ran out of the room in fear. She threw up her side and cleaned her mouth, trying to calm down, but her hands were shaking. When she returned to the dining area, Mama Iyabo was standing at the counter, staring at her. Her eyes were cold and sharp, as if she knew where Adunni had been and what she had seen. Adunni was scared and felt uneasy. She quickly paid and left without another word. That night, Adunni couldn't sleep. The image of the pot, the boiling brown liquid, and the strange things that had filled the kitchen kept replaying in her mind. She knew she had to tell someone. The next morning, she shared what she had seen with Lola and some other friends. At first, they didn't believe her, laughing it off as a bad dream. But when they saw her trembling voice and tears in her eyes, their laughter stopped. They saw the fear in her eyes and knew she wasn't lying. Lola decided to tell her parents and couldn't believe what they heard. They quickly rushed to the village elders together with Lola and Adunni to tell them about what they had discovered, hoping someone would know what to do. Lola, her parents, and Adunni, along with some elders, went to Mama Iyabo's restaurant. But when they arrived, the shop was gone. The building that had once been full of life, laughter, and the smell of delicious food had vanished without a trace. All that remained was an empty plot of land, overgrown with weeds, as though the restaurants had never existed. The villagers were shocked, unable to understand what had happened. Some whispered it was witchcraft. Others said it was the gods punishing her for something evil. No one could explain the mystery, and Mama Iyabo was never seen again. Adunni was deeply affected by the experience. The image of the dirty kitchen and the boiling brown liquid stayed with her, making her realize how much she had relied on others to cook for her without ever questioning what went on behind the scenes. She had never thought about the people who prepared her food or the conditions in which it was made. After that day, she made a decision. She would learn to cook for herself. Adunni returned to her hometown and asked her mother to teach her how to cook. Her family was surprised by her sudden change of attitude, but they were also happy to see her willing to learn. During the long break, her mother patiently taught her how to prepare simple dishes. By the time she returned to school, Adunni had gained enough confidence to cook for herself. With Lola's help, she learned other recipes, practicing every chance she got. At first, it was hard, and her meals were far from perfect, but over time, her skills improved. Though she never returned to Ketu, the experience left a lasting mark on her. She learned that it's always better to know what goes into your food, not just for health, but for peace of mind.